It is Friday, everybody, and we are getting you set for an exciting slate of MLB DFS coming up for tonight. 12 games on tap, lock set for 7:05, and we're skating on through here trying to avoid all those coronavirus positive tests. It's been a weird week for baseball for sure, so I'm sure a lot of you relieved to get to Friday and hopefully watch some baseball for tonight. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, and I'll be here for the next half an hour answering your questions for tonight's MLB DFS slate. So if you're watching this on YouTube, put those questions in the comments section. I see Sage is already there, hanging out, waiting to ask questions for today. Hello, Sage. Ask them there. Ask them on Twitch. Ask them on Facebook, Twitter, wherever it may be. We'll answer those questions and get you set for tonight's slate. The composition of tonight's slate is an interesting one because it is our first Coors Field slate of 2020. And for those of you who may be new to MLB DFS, first of all, welcome. It's a fun ride. But Coors Field is like this golden goose. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but it's the golden goose of MLB DFS because high altitude means low, atmospheric pressure. I don't know what the right way to phrase that is. But anyway, baseballs fly, if we're going to phrase it this way. Baseballs fly in Coors Field, which means whenever we have offenses there, we're probably going to want to stack them tonight. No different. We have the Padres and the Rockies at a Coors Field. You're going to want some Padres and Rockies in your life. The problem is FanDuel knows that Colorado is awesome. So when you pull up the salaries for the Rockies and the Padres, it's going to cost a pretty penny to get those players onto your team. Basically, the floor from a salary perspective for any relevant player will be about $3,000. And we could see guys, you'll see Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story being above $4,000. So you want Coors, but you got to try to find a way to afford it. So for me, on a Coors slate, I want to find strikeouts that aren't all that expensive. And I think I get that for tonight in Yu Darvish at $9,100, facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Not a super high strikeout offense, but they're also not a very good offense. And Yu Darvish, we know, can get some strikeouts. Kind of a rough outing in his first start this year, but did have a 15.1% swinging strike rate in that game. If you look back at his past, I think it's like 16 starts, his strikeout rate is 36%, 2.59 is skill interactive ERA for Yu Darvish. He's been disgusting. He is facing the Pirates. He is at home. And if you take a look at the weather over here as I pull this up, the wind at Wrigley Field is blowing in at 10 miles per hour. Wrigley is a super volatile park based on the wind speed. So if the winds are blowing in, you want to bump pitchers up, and Yu Darvish gets that bump for today. So to me, I think the default for me, I want Yu Darvish. I want a piece of Coors Field, most likely with the Padres. That is where my head is at for tonight. Josh Helms says, plus Coors Field is a beautiful park too. Yes, I've never been there. I was supposed to go there for my bachelor party this year. Didn't happen because of COVID-19. So hopefully I'll get out there some other time and check out Coors Field in person. What do you think of Sean Newcomb for a cheaper pitcher? Sean Newcomb, as a starter the past couple of years, has had some pretty serious issues. These numbers are not representative of what I'd expect for tonight, but as a starter, I think this is since the start of last year, 6.86 skill interactive ERA, just a 10% strikeout rate. He did go 82 pitches in his first start this year, and that's a pretty good number, but the overall numbers for Sean Newcomb, not all that appealing. He does get a pretty high strikeout matchup for tonight, and you will definitely take that. I can't spell Newcomb, apparently. You'll definitely take the high strikeout matchup, but Newcomb himself not supplying a whole lot in that department. His swinging strike rate in his first start, if it ever pulls up. Again, my internet slows down a bit when we do these streams, but just an 8.5% swinging strike rate in that first start for Newcomb. A lot of walks there, so he's not the place I'd go. I will talk about a value pitcher in just a second here once we get to a lull in the questions. Thoughts on the White Sox lineup? Alvin, I am annoyed. I love that they have a lot of the big boppers in there. I love that Luis Robert is at a good spot in the lineup, and I like that we get Eloy Jimenez healthy again. I'm annoyed that there's no Edwin Encarnacion, Alvin. I'm guessing that's why you're asking this, because it just makes me sad. Edwin Encarnacion, despite being old, is really good against lefties still. So I really wanted Edwin Encarnacion against Chris Bubich, and I'm not going to get Encarnacion for tonight. But I think you look at the guys who are in that White Sox lineup, there are still enough relevant bats in there where I can still get excited about stacking them. Got Tim Anderson at the top. not the biggest fly ball guy, but he does add upside via his stolen base potential. Yoel Moncada is not known for hitting lefties, and I would still say he's not someone I tend to use against lefties all that often. But, last year his numbers were okay against lefties. Prefer him against righties for sure, but he can get the job done there. Yasmani Grandal, I think, used to be a guy who would be pinch hit for against lefties. But last year when the Brewers let him go, they actually had really good numbers. Jose Abreu as well. So although, Alvin, I'm annoyed that there is no Edwin Encarnacion for the White Sox for tonight, I do still think that we can easily justify stacking them. And they're an offense I do want to stack. The other appeal with this White Sox team is that they're not all that expensive. They don't have a ton of true value plays. I guess Grandal counts as being a value play, but no one here is super expensive. Moncada is $3,600. Everybody else is $3,400 or lower. So I'm sad I don't get to use Encarnacion, but I'm still going to use the White Sox. So good question there, Alvin. Question from Lane. What are the top choices for the Yankees and Padres stacks? So I don't think the Padres lineup is out as of yet. But in general, the number one guy I want there is Trent Grisham. Grisham, really good numbers last year against righties when he was with Milwaukee. He's been batting second for the Padres for the most part. And when you give me a number 2 hitter in Coors Field with good power for $3,300, he will be my number 1 target within that offense. Eric Hosmer has been sick for the past week, effectively. It's not COVID apparently, but he's been sick. Missed a couple of games, but he's actually been getting some loft, and I am intrigued by that because he is $3,500. So Eric Hosmer definitely in there, but if you can afford guys like Feng, Tatis, Machado, I want them in there. But I think if I'm ranking Padres players, give me Trent Grisham number 1. I'd probably go Tommy Pham 2 just because he has been super active on the bases. And then probably Tatis 3, Machado 4, and then if Hosmer plays, I'd put him 5. As far as the Yankee stack goes, I think this is our 7th or so stream. Of those 7 streams, I've probably mentioned Erin Hicks' name 18 times. He's batting 5th again tonight. He is $2,900. Seems like he's starting to get his timing back after missing all that time last year. A double last night, home run a couple nights ago. So I'm going to go right back to Erin Hicks, $2,900. Pretty easy access to a Yankees team that I do like a lot tonight. Ryan Weber in his first start with the Red Sox this year didn't go so hot. So I think that we can definitely be excited about this Yankees team and using their bats. But I think that Erin Hicks will be number 1. And then Luke Voit, I think, is batting 6th. Voigt's dealt with some weird stuff last year, but against righties, still really good numbers. So I think Voit would be up there as well. So Erin Hicks and Luke Voit for the Yankees. Trent Grisham, the focal point for a Padre stack for you, Lane. Mateo, I'm looking to target bats against Spencer Turnbull and Zach Gallen. What do you think? So I said earlier that I would talk about a value pitcher who I like later on in the stream if there was time. That value pitcher I had in mind was actually Spencer Turnbull. So maybe you want to use bats against Spencer Turnbull. For me personally, I'd rather use Spencer Turnbull as a pitcher. Turnbull looked awesome last week. I know it was against the Reds, and it's annoying to use a pitcher who is facing the exact same team that he just faced, and that's something we should always consider. We want to be wary of pitchers in that situation, but I mean, he was just nasty. Threw that slider about 25% of the time, and that slider is a really good pitch for him. And the swinging strike rate for Turnbull in that game was 17.2% in that game against the Reds. And it's not like that was an aberration. If you look at his past 12 starts, the swinging strike rate for Turnbull is 12.4%. That's an awesome number, especially for a guy who is $7,800. So if I want to stack Coors Field, which I do, mostly with the Padres, and then I do want to get some Rockies in there too, I think that Spencer Turnbull is a pretty good way to get there. So if you're asking me, stacking against Spencer Turnbull, anything can happen, obviously. It's not something I will be doing personally because I like the strikeout stuff. Gives me a lot of flexibility with that salary to spend up for hitters at Coors Field. So personally, between stacking against Turnbull or using him as a pitcher, I'm going to use Turnbull as a pitcher for tonight. I know his ERA last year was weird. It was 4.61 with a 4.62 skill interactive ERA, I think. That's not great, but I like him a bit. Zach Gallen facing the Dodgers, really tough assignment for him, but Zach Gallen himself is a very talented pitcher. We're looking at here over his past 10 starts where he's been using his changeup more often. Not sure you should keep that changeup. He was doing better before this, but a 29% strikeout rate with an 11% walk rate. That walk rate is high, which is why I'm not in on Gallen outside of just facing the Dodgers. But that's why I'm not in on Gallen tonight as a pitcher. But it also means he's not going to allow a ball in play. He will wind up allowing a ball in play about 60% of the time. That's a lot lower than the number we want from a stacking perspective. We want that ball in play number to be really high. It's just the sum of the strikeout and the walk rate, or 100 minus those two numbers. That gets you roughly how many times they allow a ball in play. That number's pretty low for Zach Gallen, so I'm not stacking against him either personally. Erin is asking for home run calls. I think I would go with Trent Grisham. I don't know if that's like too boring to like say a hitter at Coors Field, but he is my favorite one, batting second, good power. So it's pretty boring to go with Trent Grisham as my home run pick, but I'm going to go with it anyway because why not? Jason is asking, any thoughts on Dobnak? Randy Dobnak for the Twins, not a big strikeout pitcher, facing a Cleveland offense with just a 22% strikeout rate since the start of last year against righties. That's a pretty big turnoff for me. And honestly, like, if Dobnak didn't get the ground balls that he gets, I'd probably be more inclined to stack against him because I know the numbers for this Cleveland offense aren't great. 96 WRC plus against righties since the start of last year, but they have some really good individual hitters. So Dobnak, I don't feel the need to go there with that strikeout rate being as low as it is at 20%. I'd rather find someone who has the ability to get strikeouts, which is why I go Turnbull, who is at 27% in his most relevant sample. Do you like a Yankees bottom of the order stack? So the Yankees specifically, I think, make a bottom of the order stack a bit more in play. The thing that I guess generally scares me a little bit there is that whenever you use hitters at the bottom end of the order, you are taking away the projected volume from your team. Now, if you're stacking that team, it means you think they're going to do really well. And that implies that they're going to get a lot of plate appearance. Even the guys at the bottom of the order are going to come into the plate a lot. But they're still not going to have a plate appearance projection as high as these guys in the middle. The other thing that I think would push me a little bit away from a bottom of the order stack is that we can go to the middle part of this Yankees order without breaking the bank, because Gleyber Torres is $3,500. We have Erin Hicks at $2,900. Luke Voigt, again, not all that expensive, as he is $2,800 for tonight. So I think you can stack middle of the order and still save quite a bit of salary between guys like Hicks and like Voigt. So I think I go middle part of the order versus the lower part of the order here. Giovanni Urshela, 46% hard hit rate, but just a 32% hard hit rate, or a fly ball rate, I should say, against righties last year. He's a guy I prefer against lefties, so probably skewing more towards the middle part of the Yankees order, just because we can do that and still save a lot of salary. Johnny is asking, Castillo or Clevenger? I'm worried about Clevenger because the Twins were just shut out and believe the Twins will come out swinging. I think the concern with Clevenger for me is about the Twins. If you were here for yesterday's stream, I mentioned that Shane Bieber was my number 2 pitcher behind Dinelson Lamet, but I also had higher expectations for Bieber overall because Clevenger strikeout rate a little bit lower there. And if you look at his first start, he did go 90 pitches, but we saw Bieber go 97, I think, in his first start this year. So a little bit fewer, a couple fewer strikeouts. The pitch count a little bit lower for Clevenger. So I'm not as into Clevenger as I was into Bieber for last night. The Twins, as a team, independent of what you were talking about with like them trying to come out swinging, is that they don't strike out very much. Just a 21% strikeout rate against righties since the start of last year. Shane Bieber is a cyborg, so we can't, look at him and project that for the next person. But I do think that, and that's why I'm a little bit lower on Clevenger. So give me Luis Castillo. He's the other guy you mentioned there, Johnny. And I love Castillo. He's $10,100. He leaned on his changeup a lot in his first start this year, which is something he started to do in his final 18 starts last year. If you combine that start with his end to last year, 3.68 skill interactive ERA, 30% strikeout rate against a Tigers team that has a 26% strikeout rate against righties over the past calendar year. That's why I like Castillo. The reason that I have him below Yu Darvish for tonight is that Castillo did just face this Tigers team the most in his past start, and they are familiar with what he's doing. They know it's nasty, which is definitely a good thing, but they are at least familiar with what he's doing, and that is definitely a downside for Castillo. So I'm going to go Yu Darvish, $1,000 cheaper than Castillo, but I do think Castillo pretty easily my number 2 pitcher for tonight. If we're tiering things, like straight up rankings for pitcher, Yu Darvish 1 and Luis Castillo 2, but they're in the same tier, and then you drop down a tier to Mike Clevenger without considering salary as my number 3 pitcher for tonight. But once we consider salary, I'll go Turnbull over Clevenger in my pitcher rankings for tonight. Erin is asking, go-to stack for tonight. That all revolves around Coors Field. It's the Padres. They're facing John Gray. Gray was indoors last week, and you have to be careful about velocity when pitchers are indoors because it's cooler in there. It was 73 degrees-ish with the stadium closed in Texas last week. But even when you account for that, Gray's velocity was still kind of concerning. He also didn't get any whiffs, or he got 7.6% swinging strike rate, but effectively no whiffs against a Texas Rangers team that loves to swing and miss. That's a concern for me, so I want to stack the Padres. They are my number 1 stack for tonight. The Rockies would be too. The reason they're lower than the Padres for me is that Garrett Richards does not allow a ton of balls in play, kind of similar to Zach Gallen, where a lot of strikeouts, a lot of walks, fewer balls in play, fewer chances to take advantage of that thin atmosphere at Coors Field. So I will put Richards or the Rockies 2 behind the Padres. I think the Yankees are up there from a stacking perspective for tonight. As a good stack, I like the Braves as well. The White Sox, team that I think probably won't get a ton of popularity because I don't think people are in on the White Sox, but a 122 WRC plus for their active roster since the start of last year against lefties, pretty good. So I'm gonna try to get on the White Sox here tonight. So those are the main stacks I am targeting here. Jason is asking, would you roster Ohtani as a pitcher if he pitches this weekend? Probably not. Unfortunately, Jason, I used Ohtani as a pitcher last weekend, which did not go great. But I think based on not really on the ineffectiveness, but I think on concerns about length, because I don't know if the Angels really want to risk it with him if he's not going to be fully stretched out. So I'd expect him to be pretty conservative on the pitch count with Ohtani. Again, he's coming off a major surgery, so there's also that angle to keep things kind of low on him. So I was in on Ohtani last weekend. It was bad. So whoops, my bad. But I don't think I'll be going back this weekend, just based on what we saw last weekend being really, really concerning. Billy is asking, any hype about McCullers? I like McCullers in general, a 25% strikeout rate. So as a player, yeah, I like Lance McCullers. I am not super into him for tonight because he's facing the Angels. The Angels don't have Mike Trout, and that is a huge upgrade for any pitcher facing them. But even with Mike Trout being gone, they are still a low strikeout team, and that's a pretty major concern from a DFS perspective. I also am generally wary of Houston pitchers on the road because Houston is a park. I think Derek Carty did research on this where there are certain parks where a pitcher's strikeout rate will be higher, whether it's because of the batter's eye or something like that. There are like strikeout factors for different parks. And Houston is a one, I think, that amps up the strikeout rates for pitchers. So when they go on the road, they experience bigger home road splits than other teams would. So McCullers on the road, facing the Angels, 12% swinging strike rate in his first start. That's not bad, but I think I'm okay kind of holding off on McCullers until I get him in a higher strikeout matchup. We looking at any Colorado stacks or taking a stand and picking one side. I don't tend to take a stand when it comes to Coors. I tend to just, unless it's like legit pitchers or if I am being defiant for some reason, I do tend to go there just because like it's Coors for a reason. Like it carries that aura for a reason. It's because they allow a lot of runs there. So I will go at the Rockies. But like, let's say, Josh, this may answer your question here. Let's say you're doing a single entry lineup. And you decide you want to go, because this is where I would go at least. I would go Yu Darvish as my pitcher, and you get your Padres stack. I'm prioritizing the Padres over the Rockies. I know that when I stack the Padres with Darvish, I'm not going to be able to get the Rockies too. So instead, I'll be looking for a value stack. I think the Diamondbacks probably fit that pretty well. They're facing Tony Gonsolin. Gonsolin, 20% strikeout rate as a starter last year, 5.27 xFIP in that time, and he allowed a lot of hard contact and didn't get many ground balls. So I think like a default build for me is I'd be looking at Yu Darvish, my pitcher, Padre stack, probably looking at the Diamondback stat to get value. Cole Calhoun, David Peralta, Christian Walker, all guys who can save you a lot of salary. So if we're going single entry, Josh, yes, I would be okay taking a stand and not using Colorado there. For multi-entry, I will use them. I will just use them less often than I use a team like San Diego. Question here from Twitch. Hello, Ghost Blazer. Best value pitcher. Depends on your definition of value. I don't tend to view value the same way because I won't go below a certain strikeout rate, like depending on the slate. I will not go with a pitcher who doesn't get strikeouts if there are pitchers who do get strikeouts on that slate. So to me, if I'm searching for a pitcher, I can reasonably expect to get strikeouts and comes at a lower salary. It's Spencer Turnbull. We talked about him before, but I think that if you are looking to go nuts on Coors Field and you want a value pitcher who I at least think has a path to a really solid game, Spencer Turnbull will be that guy for me. 8 strikeouts in his first game this year against, again, the same Reds team, which is more annoying than it is a good thing. But 36 FanDuel points despite not getting a win or a quality start. I think he went 87 pitches in that game. So Ghost Blazer, Spencer Turnbull is my favorite value option for tonight's slate. Alvin, any second base you like? Struggling with that spot. Alvin, that has been my least favorite position of the entire year. DJ LeMahieu, I was lamenting the fact that I had to use him when he was $3,300. Now he is $3,700. Boo. I don't want to do that. Ryan McMahon's awesome. We were talking about, not being as into the Rockies, but McMahon's $3,500. He has been awesome since the start of last year. So I think McMahon fits that. I do like Ketel Marte batting leadoff for that Diamondbacks team, facing Tony Gonsolin. Mike Moustakas is back. How about that? Okay, that's good to see. If you're looking for a cheaper second baseman, Alvin, oh boy, it gets gross pretty quick because there aren't a lot of guys I'm super willing to use unless someone pops up as more lineups come out. It could be kind of gross. So best of luck when it comes to second base. I don't know. Second base has been gross this year though, so I think I'm trying to live with the guys, like if Jerks and Profar is at a good spot in the order, he's $3,000 in Coors. Ryan McMahon in Coors at $3,500. I think those are the main targets for me. Johnny is asking, do you like the Rays as a stack for tonight? So I was talking before about how it's not Sean Newcomb. Just kidding. Alex Cobb. Alex Cobb coming back from an injury. He missed almost all of last year. Doesn't allow a ton of hard contact, does get ground balls. Now, the thing that you could use in your favor, Johnny, if you do want to use the Rays as a stack, is that Cobb doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. Looking at Cobb in his first start, I think he looked pretty okay. So I'm a little bit lower on the Rays, but you can justify a Johnny just because the strikeout rate on Cobb is low. It's a park upgrade for Tampa Bay as well, going up to Baltimore versus Tampa Bay. So there are reasons to justify Tampa Bay, but they're not near the top of my list. Question from Rob on Facebook. After seeing my Twins pick apart Keuchel last night, hey, go Twins, Rob. I like it. What are your thoughts on the Royals righty stack against Keuchel? Keuchel's velocity was down last week. Let me see here. The numbers on that. I just said velo was bad. Very descriptive note there, Jim. But a 5.5% swinging strike rate for Dallas Keuchel against the Twins. Threw a lot of changeups in 8 starts with more changes for Keuchel. 4.56 going track to ERA, 16% strikeout rate. Still limiting hard contact, which is why I would probably not prioritize the Royals. But Rob, it might not have been an aberration that the Twins did well. The Twins are a better offense against lefties than the Royals are, but that velocity on Keuchel was at least concerning. The Royals are probably not a team I will stack for tonight, but you can justify it with that velocity dip and the lack of swings and misses out of Dallas Keuchel. One final question here from Aaron. 1, 2, 3, 4 Padres stacked for me with Darvish. I have catcher / first base, second base, outfield, and utility. Any options you love in those positions? I think I would just try to find a second stack. This is something we haven't really discussed a lot, but every time you can get 2 stacks in a lineup, you should do so. If it's 4 players from one team and 4 from another, let's go. Let's ride, baby. That's exactly what you want. But if it's 4-3-1, that's also okay. So I think that I would try to find a second stack there, find players who fit within that. Off the top of my head, Aaron, I think that Arizona would work really well with that because Christian Walker at first base, you've got Ketel Marte at second base, Cole Calhoun, David Peralta, outfield utility. That fills it out pretty well. So definitely okay with the Padres there. Josh mentioned Trout is out. Yeah, he's on paternity leave. Congratulations to Mike Trout's family on a new child. Hopefully everyone is healthy there. Bumped to McCullers. No, still a low strikeout team, and that's the main concern. It's not the strength of the Angels. It is partially, but the bigger concern is the lack of strikeouts. All right, Ghost Blazers, since you're watching on Twitch, we don't have many people on Twitch. I'll answer one more question there. What's one player you think has the best chance at a home run? I am sticking with Trent Grisham. Trent Grisham is, I think, the thumbnail guy for this thing. So we are riding with Trent Grisham as our home run pick for tonight. That is all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Have a fantastic time tonight. We'll be back again next week. The Solo Shot records 9 a.m. Eastern every weekday here on YouTube. We also have this stream at 4 p.m. Eastern every weekday, so make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube page and the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Now 6 different sports covered per week on the numberFire DFS feed, so make sure you're subscribed to all those places. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, running the video side of things here today and this entire week. Thank you, Cal, as always, for your tireless work. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck tonight with your lineups. We'll talk to you again next week. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.